Yeah, please go ahead, sir. Namaste, everyone. Welcome to this webinar. We have an interesting guest here, so we'll talk about more about a important subject. With that, before we begin, I want to start with a quick prayer, and then we will do a quick round of introduction about INDICA Academy and the other panelists that I have with me, Ram and Tanspai. And then we will talk about some housekeeping rules, and then we'll dive into the program. So with that, I will start with a small prayer from the Rig Veda. Ano bhatra katpoyantu vishwataha. Let all the noble thoughts from all around come to us. So with that, welcome everybody again. My name is Nishant Limbadia. I'm the INDICA Academy, one of the volunteers at INDICA Academy USA. I've been associated with INDICA Academy for a while, about 2-3 years. I have Ram Sundar as well here. He's my friend. He's a fellow Illinoisan, and he's associated with INDICA Academy same way that I am. And then we have our national convener, Avtans Kumar, Avtans Bhai, Namaste. And at INDICA Academy, we most people may not know, but it's kind of a virtual university that we are trying to bring a renaissance back, Indic renaissance back to Bharat or India or wherever Indians live outside India. And we do a lot of things, book discussions, seminars, webinars, even courses. We now have courses that are teaching specific stuff, universities and all that, and expositions on with academics and so there's a lot of things you can find out about INDICA Academy, indicacademy.org online. So with that, a few house rules. So we are going to be talking to Manjula ji. I will have a brief introduction, shortly. But if you have any questions, please put it in the chat window. And if any comments, you can put it in the chat window. Any Q&A or questions, you can put it in the question and answer window, and we'll try to take those questions as we go along. If something needs to be parked for later, we will do that. And Ram or Autansbai or me, either one of us will be taking those questions one by one. So with that, those housekeeping rules, let me welcome Manjula Tekal. She is one of our, she's native from Illinois. She's we've known her for a while, and she's written a very good book, and I would say an excellent book. I've read it a few months ago, and it is called Devayani. We know the story of Devayani and Yayati from Mahabharata, so this is referring to that particular character. And Manjula ji, if you want to raise up the book. Yeah, see, that's the book that I have on my Kindle. So thank you very much. So with that, Aftansbhai, I will give it to you. We can have some conversation about Manjula ji's background and how this book came about and all that. So
thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure for us to host you and to promote and kind of talk about this book, because it's an important book because we are talking about our itihasa, right? From Mahabharata. The part of Mahabharata is this book Devayani, how it all begins. So the way it is written, I'm sure we will talk more about it. But Avtansbhai, take it over. You're on mute, bhai.
Yep, I got it. Sorry about that. Namaste, everybody. Namaste, Manjula ji. Namaste, Ram and Nishant bhai. Welcome, everybody. So, it's interesting that we have known Manjula ji for a while, and we have had several conversations also. And I got to meet her when I was there on the campus of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign with Sumedha ji's book. And we had some conversation there, and then Manjula ji came also to when we did our Grateful to Gurus for Dr. Shubhas Kakti. So she drove all the way from Champaign, about 3 hours or plus minus 3 hours drive to Chicago. But she came, and then so Manjula ji, before I go any further, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background. You are from the prairies of Champaign-Urbana, but where exactly you are from and where you grew up?
By the way, you forgot to say both of us graduated from the same school, University of Illinois.
Yes, ILL.
Totally. Yeah. Well, I'm from Bangalore, from India. And then I have, an engineering degree, and I have a degree in management from Indian Institute of Management, Bangalore. Then I came here to this country and then studied management at UFI as well. And I have been working in the industry / management, IT / management and education sectors. And since 2018, I had a bit of personal issue. I went to stay with my mother who had end-stage renal failure issues. So it was at that time I started writing. And since then I have been writing. So that is in brief about me. Of course, I've got my home and kids and everything in Champaign-Urbana area.
Cool. So how did you get attracted towards this character? Anything
Devayani.
Specific that drew you towards Devayani?
I feel like she's a very complex character. I mean, most people, to my mind, the way I look at it, it is easier to glorify and write heroes, who don't have much negative character, if you will. I mean, much negative characteristics or, flaws in character. There is nobody really who does not have character flaws. But then if you have a gray person, who's got a positive trait and a bunch of negative traits, or whatever whatever paints him gray, that makes him a more interesting character study. Him or her, if you will. So according to me, all the characters that I have written about, Yayati, Sharmishta, and Devayani, all of them are great characters. They've got tremendous positive traits. They've also have tremendous negative traits. So they have to struggle through their flaws, character flaws, and then achieve whatever it is that they want to achieve in life. So with that, Devayani is very pretty. She's got her father's support. She's got, strong character. She's got tremendous amount of loyalty. But with all this, she's very manipulative, and she's given to passion. So she's a very strong, positive and negative character. So to write such a character, I feel is pretty challenging. That is the reason. I mean, I like all the characters actually. I mean, even Sharmishta and Yayati, but I do like Devayani a lot. She even comes across somebody who is incapable of love, but that's not quite true. She's burdened with guilt, even while she wants to love, and she's got, she's so loyal to Kacha. I'm jumping the gun here a little bit. She's so loyal to Kacha that she can't love Yayati completely. And she is so competitive that she cannot love Sharmishta completely. So therein lies the conundrum. I mean, the complexity of her character.
I have one more before I let Nishant Bhai come. So when did you conceive of this character, or when did you conceive of this writing about this book? Was it in Champaign-Urbana itself?
I guess I've been wanting to write for a very long time, actually. But life happened. I have been reading and living life and having kids and studying and working. So I did not have the time to do serious writing. So when I had some time, therefore I started this. Yeah, I guess it must have been in Champaign-Urbana that I conceived of this.
Well, it's a very quiet prairie place and very quaint. And I remember when I applied for my visa, I was, in Delhi. I went to the consulate office, and I showed him all the paperwork and everything, and he looked at me, the visa officer, and he looked at me and he said, "Why do you want to go to Champaign? It's an obscure place." He says, "Why do you want to go to Champaign? It's an obscure place." And I didn't have any answer. I had prepared a lot of answers, but I did not expect this question. So I just said, "Oh, it's a very good university." And he said, "Yes, it is." And he stamped. That's the only question he asked me. So I'm sure, the quaint, serene prairie setting of Champaign-Urbana gives you a lot of opportunity to think and write and be yourself.
It must have been that, actually. I mean, it is really true that you do have some time, especially when after COVID, you have had practically no interaction with people at all. I mean, it is social media and your work. There's hardly anything else that's going on in life. Yeah. So, yeah, it gives you some time to cogitate and write.
Yes. Manjula, I'm that still that this character. Since I've read the story, right, and I've actually read the one in Mahabharata, right? So the original Mahabharata I have. So I'm still intrigued as to what is the seed, because if you read in Mahabharata, right, the story of Devayani and Yayati is kind of mentioned in brief. It does not have. I don't want to ruin the surprise for audience who are going to read this book, but the way the book is constructed and written, it seems like there is just tons and tons of material available on it, but it's really not, right? So can you tell us, like, where was the seed of this character? Like, what appealed to you in Devayani that kind of made you write this book? I mean, it might have been a very small thing, but seeds usually, trees grow out of seeds. So.
No, actually, if you look at the popular perception of Yayati, Sharmishta, and Devayani, they're not particularly great characters. Especially Yayati, they say, "Oh, he's like so avaricious. So he grabs life so much that he's even prepared to cheat his own children." That is the kind of perception that is there about Yayati. Similarly, Devayani is like, she's so manipulative. She's willing to do anything. She kind of tricked Yayati into marrying her. And she complained constantly about, Sharmishta and Yayati to her father, brought upon a curse on Yayati. And similarly, Sharmishta is supposed to be like this pristine, very nice person who's like so loving. And in Kalidasa, they say, they say when Shakuntala leaves for her husband's house, Kanwa says to her, "You should love your husband, Dushanta, the way Sharmishta loved Yayati." That is the benediction that Kanwa gives her. So she's the epitome of love, So my take on it is that it's not that simple, actually. What hits you is like, okay, fine. You see them as very bad characters, perhaps, and it is really not true. Yayati lives on. I mean, his legacy is so huge that his children went all over the place. Like they emigrated out of India. Puru was the, guy who kind of, it is in his reign that Vedic culture took off. And like his, descendants, Pandavas and Kauravas, they fought a great war. And there was a war in between called Dasharagya, which was fought, between the uh, Purus and Drihyus and Anus and all those people. So his legacy is huge. He performed many Ashwamedha yagas, and end of the day, his legacy is so huge that he's not a character that you can disregard completely. So, so if you look at him a little more closely, he comes across as a complex person, much more than as a dark villainous kind of a character. So I thought, okay, I'm going to say it differently, the way I see it, And similarly, Devayani is also not a very stick figure kind of a thing. Okay, Mahabharata, the episode is very small, but if you actually look at the Puranas, it adds to the whole thing. So when I have actually written this novel, there is nothing that I have added. I mean, interpretation is all my own, but the stories are all taken from original sources. They're all taken from Puranas. They're all taken from Mahabharata. So there is nothing story-wise that I have contributed myself, but there is a lot that I have interpreted and put together. So I guess that is my contribution, if you will.
No, it's a very yeah, it's very sorry, I'm hearing an echo.
Okay. So it is everybody knows, those who have read the book, that Devyani's character is very complex character. It shows a lot of emotions and different kinds. Is there anything specific that connects with you personally?
I don't know. I feel as though all of the characters have a little bit of yourself in it. Otherwise, no writer will be able to write all these characters, and no reader will be able to connect to them. So, the end of the day, it is the relatability. So, if you look at all these constructs, right? I mean, if you look at Puranas and all these stories, all these are like, there is a surreal element to it sometimes. There is a magical realism element. There is a fantasy element to all these stories. My challenge, the way I look at all these stories, is that I would want to minimize the surrealist element or the magical realism or whatever, I want to make it as relatable as possible. And I want to look at all these things as though these are problems of the present day, and make it like all these characters are like completely present day. I mean, even though when you're reading, you want to paint a picture of a very old time, you still want to, make it as though you still can understand each of those characters. You can understand their circumstances. You can understand their loves, hates, and whatever they're passionate about. So that is what I'm aiming in this particular book. So if you look at like all these things, right? I mean, the politics are about, river squabbles. The politics are about like, the university setting, what do they do in the university setting? And the problems are about like, marital discord. The problems are about like, you are very close friends with somebody and yet you are very competitive with them. So they're all relatable problems, and these are all problems that you face today in real life. So that was the effect that I wanted to create. And my readers have to tell me how far I have succeeded.
I personally the book. So, I am, like I said, I've read it cover to cover. So in the end, I ended up relating with every character, like you said, little bit of with a little bit of with Shukracharya, a little bit with Devayani, a little bit with the Yayati, a little bit with Sharmishta, everybody, every character that's mentioned in the book, you end up relating to everybody. That's how well it is written. So
Thank you. Actually, if you look at Shukracharya, it is so easy. I mean, she's
yes,
lost a mother, and
yes,
then you love this daughter so much, you feel bad for her. You kind
right,
of end up spoiling her a little bit.
yeah.
And that can happen very well in today's times.
Yeah, you can see that effect of a mother-daughter relationship. You transpose it to today's world, and you see that same dynamic happening, everywhere. You look at Indian politics, and you will see that. So I don't have to point any fingers, but you see that happening. Maybe even the current one is an extreme case of what it was happening between, how the dynamic was between Shukracharya and Devayani. He was stern with her, and he kind of admonished her at times, like, say, don't do this or don't do that, or you're responsible for your own conduct and all that. But sometimes you get another extreme where it's just like, spoon feeding. You do whatever you want, and I'll always back you.
Right. End of the
So
day, that it all comes down to that. Oh, okay,
right,
fine. Don't cry. It's okay. You do
right,
whatever you please. I'll support you.
yeah.
Yeah. And
So
similarly, in the case of Yayati also, I mean, he loves her. He like he has expectations of her because she is his wife. But she's pining away for Kacha, and even though she wants to be nice to Yayati, she's not quite succeeding there. And it puts him in a very bad emotional state.
okay, right,
So, yeah.
yeah,
And that is also very relatable, actually, to me.
yes, yes. The more relatable part was for me was how Devyani cannot put her past behind her. you
Yes.
know always like, whatever has happened in the past, she kind of continuously relives it, and says, because this happened to me, justifying the present based on
Yes.
what has happened in the past. And that does not let her live the life she is privileged to live, right? Like,
Yes.
she's a queen, she's a queen of Aryavrat, and she has everything if she wants to, but she cannot enjoy it, or for whatever reason. So uh, we sometimes get into that mode too, like, regular human beings. We also get into that mode where we continuously pine about past, or something as wrong has happened to us, and we say, okay, because this thing has happened, I'm going to do this thing in a certain way, or that thing in a certain way. So
Mhm.
that was very relatable as well, that how she's continuously reliving her past. And
Good.
then we obviously have Sarmishta, who kind of comes by and says that, well, she has made peace with her past, and she has made peace with her situation, so to speak, with Devayani, where she's coming as a maid
Right.
with Devayani, basically a maid with Devayani, a dasi, what do you see, or a friend. And then she kind of makes peace with that arrangement and says, okay, I've done something in the past. It has some bearing, but I'm going to make the most of where I am. So it's two different philosophies that you
Contrast.
can see, contrasting philosophies. Yes.
Contrast. And
Yeah.
yet she's not 100% happy either, because
Yeah.
she is buried. She's not going to be able to talk to her peers. She's not
Yes.
going to be able to talk to her parents. And her children are not recognized as Yayati's children. So she's not completely happy either. So she's going through her own battles. Um, so yeah,
Is
it's a
is there a and I don't know if that's a connection that I can make, but how Jayanti leaves, right? Jayanti is Shukracharya's wife, so she leaves Devayani because there is
right.
some marital discord. So she leaves, and puts Devayani in a kind of where everybody's looking at her with some colored lens, right? Like, okay, she's protected and all that. So when Devayani's turn comes she becomes a queen of Yayati and marries and goes to Yayati's house. She in a sense has to exact. Well, revenge might be I know may not be an appropriate word, but she wants to exact a revenge on Sharmishta because she said things that because she was kept in an environment when she was growing up alone and she was kind of isolated from her people, from her mother. Maybe she can do the same thing with Sharmishta, take her with her to Yayati's house and keep her away from her family and all that. Is that something, is there a connection that we can make? Or I was trying to make that connection. I'm not sure if that's true or not.
No, that's actually like, that's a wonderful interpretation. But, she cannot forgive that she cannot forgive a whole slew of things from Sharmishta. She cannot forgive for having mother's love, like you said. She cannot forgive for her for the fact that she kind of advised her against Kacha. And somehow she relates her failure of that relationship also to the Rakshasas, which is plausible. With Sharmishta, maybe a little bit implausible. And then she pushes her into the well. And that's the like icing on the cake. So she is like completely annoyed about, she's annoyed is a mild word. She's furious with Sharmishta for having put her in that. I mean, you tried to kill me. How could you do this? I mean, I'm your friend. How could you have done this? So even though Sharmishta goes around saying, no, I did not do it, she does not quite believe. And even when she believes, she's like, oh, okay, fine. Perhaps you did not do it. But there are so many other wrongs that you have committed against me. So I cannot forgive you. So she holds that grudge so close to her heart. And yeah. And I like the dynamic between the two women. They're friends. They like each other. They understand each other very well. But they're competitors and they hate each other. And they feel as though the boundaries are constantly being crossed. They're jealous. So it's a very interesting kind of a thing, relationship.
Yeah. Especially when they go to Yayati's house, that's where the real conflict kind of comes out in them, because now they've grown up, they've matured, they know the life, the responsibilities and the intricacies of life more than when they were girls, right? So now the competition is even more intense. And
yeah. And Sharmishta has fallen in love with Yayati, and she is like, she has the man, this one has the man that I want. And how is it that she's rewarded with this kind of a man, whereas I have been a good girl all along, I have been loyal to my own clan. How is it that I have been cheated out of my prize? So there is that resentment that she has against Devayani.
So, Manjula, you want to read some paragraphs, passages from the book, and see what maybe we can give some taste to the audience. So we has there with us, so to kind of see what the flavor the book has, and all that. So
okay. So I had this passage about the geography of the whole, the geographical setting of the book.
Yes.
So Yayati has an older brother called Yati who's become a mendicant. He takes sannyas and goes away. And that is the reason why Yayati inherits the kingdom. And Yayati has gone to the Asura and Deva. Basically, they are their allies. So he goes there and then has a conversation with them about the migrations, the migrants that are coming in, and then he wants to manage all those things. So anyway, here is the passage. The journey back was also fruitful in an unexpected way. Yayati had to cover the long journey back to his capital from the snow-clad mountains of the northwest, crossing the Sindhu, Vitasta, Vipasha, Asikni, Parushni, and Shutudri rivers. The journey would take several weeks on horseback. When they were camping in Dhauladhar mountains, after crossing the Vipasha, Yayati met a stranger. He was a tall, bearded, emaciated man, smeared with ashes and covered in blankets. His hair was piled on top of his head and knotted. He held a sturdy stick. Night had fallen and it was cold. So, spotting the soldiers sitting around a campfire, he had come to join them. When the stranger approached, Yayati stood up and offered his respects to the traveling mendicant. The man looked vaguely familiar. Please join us, Yogin, and accept our hospitality. Which way are you headed? I'm walking to the Himalayas, Yayati. I presume you are going to Pratisthana? Yayati was surprised. Yes, Yogin. Do you know me, or have you achieved the powers of seeing the past, present, and the future? Yayati, I'm your brother. Yati. Yati. Yayati was astounded that he had not managed to recognize the older brother he had grown up with. But this emaciated person was not the prince Yayati remembered. His legs and feet were chafed from incessant walking, his skin dry and rough. Yayati prostrated before him. Yes, Yogi Maharaj, Yati, Yogi Maharaj, I was away at Gurukul when you left. I have always wanted to meet you to understand why you went away, rejecting kingship. Mother was devastated by your departure, big brother. Yati said, I have thought about you often and wondered how you were getting on. It cannot be easy to be around our mother when she feels so victimized by our father. After she became the de facto queen, she was so much better to be around, even inspiring. But by then, I had seen the futility of it all. I'm not interested in kingship. I'm not interested in women. That is why I decided to renounce my worldly connections and wealth and pursue my spiritual goals. Are you happy? You sacrificed the kingship that was rightfully yours and the pleasures of a family life to find yourself. Are you anywhere near achieving your spiritual goals? Yati smiled. Yayati could see he was troubled. I didn't want kingship or wealth or the love of a woman, but there are lots of desires inside me still. I'm not even close to my goal. I am trying to find a guru who will guide me on my spiritual quest. At this moment, I am suffering from a deep sense of discontent, rootlessness, and a loss of direction. I know I will find someone if I head north towards the Himalayas. The trek is arduous through thick forests. He paused and then looked earnestly at Yayati. Yayati, you must expand your territories eastward into the Ganga-Yamuna Delta. I have heard stories that many years ago, the Yamuna used to feed into Saraswati. Many tremors in the mountains forced the Yamuna to change course and join the Ganga, which is a big river now, though still not a mighty ocean-like river like the Saraswati. Yes, we Manavas, the descendants of Manu, had our center at Manvalaya, close to where we are now. The capital was moved to Pratisthana at the confluence of Saraswati and Drishadvati only during the time of Pururavas, our great-grandfather. Yes, Yati, I am planning to perform a second Ashwamedha. This beautiful earth will yield her bounty to those who can work hard and conquer her. Veerabhogya Vasundhara. But I would like to understand what is worrying you, big brother. You should not call me by a title that reminds me of my previous life, Yayati. I am engaged in introspection and meditation. I need first to understand myself before I embark upon any spiritual quest. I don't understand my desires, Yayati. I must repudiate all my wants, quieten my senses, and listen to that internal voice that is speaking to me. There is too much noise drowning out that voice. I do feel alone and sad about giving up all my relationships. But my sorrow is deeper than that. I am relieved that I gave up my kingship and wealth. To me, those were not lures, they were shackles. I have never even been tempted by them. Something else is calling to me, and I have not found it. He stopped and then smiled at Yayati. What about you, Yayati? Are you happy? I like being king. I enjoy responsibility and achievement. I like being a leader. But that's not all of it, is it? Are you happy? Are you married? There it was, the start question. Yayati said, yes, I'm married to a gorgeous and talented woman. But you're right. I have everything I could possibly want and the capacity to achieve more. And yet I'm not happy. I don't know. Perhaps it is because I feel I have not received the love I deserve. I feel I'm loved only because I can provide, like a mule or some beast of burden. I feel used by everyone, my mother and my wife included. That is all the love humans are capable of, Yayati. They love you only because they love themselves. You should look inside yourself and find something to love in yourself first. Have you done that, Yogi Maharaj? Not yet, but I'm on that quest. The brothers talked late into the night, that in the dancing light of the campfire. Before Yayati went to sleep, he said, come home to meet with Mother, Yogi Maharaj. Yati refused. I need to find a better balance within myself before I can find the equanimity and distance to meet her, Yayati. But my blessings are always with you, and I promise to come later when I have reached a clearer stage in my journey. There you have it.
Wonderful message. Before Nishant Bhai asks, says something, I have a comment from somebody commenting on your sari. What a stunning sari. I think it's Bindu Tandon.
Thank you. This is the Odisha sari, Sambalpuri.
The passage you read, the way the geography is covered, right? I was reading through it. I was like, wow, all this has been distilled into this one, tied into this story. Now, that reminds me of the, I think you had tweeted a long time ago, Manjula ji. You had tweeted a picture of Dhawadhar Mountains, I think.
Yes.
A long time ago. So can you tell us what that was about? Because I can't find that tweet now. I maybe I have to search more. But I clearly remember that you had posted that along with the connection to the book a long time ago.
Yes. Actually, Manali is the Manvalaya of today.
Oh.
Manali of Himachal Pradesh. And the Dhawadhar Mountains is, I think, slightly to the west, if I'm not mistaken, of Manali. And Manali has a temple of to Manu. I did not even know about that, and I was so surprised and actually delighted to find that there's a temple to Manu in Manali. And even now, it's an active temple. People do go visit, and So right. Yeah. And the other thing, I don't know. I made a lot of effort to put Yayati in exactly where he must have ruled from, Pratisthana. Mm-hmm. Nilesh would help me a lot to locate that thing, and that's one of the nicer experiences that I had, to be able to locate the capital. And
nice. And I people who have followed this whole topic on Saraswati and the Lost River, and there is a great book by Mikhail Danino, and then yes. Just now Major G.D. Bakshi also came out with a book recently. Yes. So for people who don't know, Yamuna was the first one to get out of Saraswati or flow away from Saraswati, and then the next one was Shatudri, or which is what I think we call Satluj today.
That's right.
Satluj was the other one that was flowing into to Saraswati, making it a big river. So Satluj or Shatudri turned and meet the Indus or Bias, or I think, and then the Yamuna diverted the other side. So that's how the whole Saraswati river kind of
became
where it
small.
passed from Bikaner area or the upper Rajasthan area. That's where it dried out. So
That's right.
yeah, fantastic. I could
Thank
see
you.
like, okay, this is in this. So before the Shatudri turned away and before or after Yamuna turned, to Ganga, that this is where it's all located. So that was good to find out.
Yeah. Actually, he must have actually, Yayati must have, he was located in Pratisthana, and then he must have witnessed this mighty Saraswati, because the way Rigveda is there, like Yayati must have lived in the very, very early parts of Rigveda, pre-Rigvedic times, almost. So at that time, Saraswati must have been a mighty river. And a lot of mention in Rigveda about the 5 sons, the clans of Yayati's sons, So it is before that time, which makes it like, almost pre-Rigvedic times. And during those times, like I said, Saraswati must have been a mighty river. So you have to assume at least Shrutudri was meeting with Saraswati at that time. So it also kind of sort of locates the time,
Okay, so yes, absolutely. That's what I was thinking. Because if you read the GD Bakshi book and the other book, it tells you the timeline. So we don't want to digress. I think we have a couple more questions. Manisha Bhagwat ji is asking, can you talk about the getting transfusion from the son to extend his own life at the cost of life of his own son? So that again, I mean, before Manjula ji says, I mean, the entire concept, the way it is explained in Mahabharata, right? It says, I'll give, or I'll, you give me your youth. So it may sound very out of the world sometimes, or illogical, but the way it explained in Devayani is the way I think makes the most sense, at least to me. So with that, Manjula ji, just take it away.
It might have happened that way, right? I mean, that is the
right.
So I found recently in an article in Scientific American, I think. Let me just try to find that article. 1 second. I guess there is no way to cast it on the screen, is there? So there is this article in Scientific American. Can blood of young people slow aging? Silicon Valley has bet billions it will. It was a Newsweek article.
You can share it in the chat if you want the link. You can share it in the chat.
Okay. So there is a company that is getting funded. So basically, what they are saying is that by giving transfusions of young people to old people, it can actually retard aging. That is the contention that they have. So it is not so outlandish as you would think. And I'm very happy to declare that I actually saw the article after I wrote this. So I'm feeling very empowered and good about the whole thing. So yeah, I mean, it is possible that it might have happened. Maybe it is just a concept, but I wanted to recast it in such a way that I did not want to sound mumbo jumbo about it. You just recite a mantra and it'll just happen. I didn't want to sound so, it must have taken a lot more tapasya, a lot more work, a lot more research to actually effect that kind of a transformation. So this was the best thing that I could come up with. And
yes.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little story about how it happened and how it was? What Shukracharya, I know Shukracharya gave something. So is that how it happened? Just a brief, few lines, right. How it happened in the book.
So in Mahabharata, Devayani goes and complains to her father And she says that Sharmishta, her husband has been cheating her with Sharmishta, and Sharmishta has got 3 sons now, and then she has discovered it, and then she goes like, you have to punish my husband for this. And Shukracharya is kind of slightly disgusted about it. I mean, he doesn't want to do anything. He kind of tries to talk her out of it, but he's angry enough to curse him. And then he says, okay, so you'll right now become very old, and you will lose your power, so to speak, to enjoy youth and consequently the pleasures of youth, if you will. So then suddenly Yayati becomes this old person, and then he loses his youth, and then he goes crying to Shukracharya and says, look, this is unfair. I mean, by cursing me, not only have you cursed me, you've cursed my citizens, you've cursed my wives, you've cursed my children. It's not really fair. So then he says, okay, so this curse is final, but you can exchange your old age with with the youth of somebody who will give it to you. He goes and asks his children one by one. All of them refuse except Guru. And then he exchanges his youth, his old age with Guru's youth. And then he lives for a long time, and then he has all the pleasures that youth is going to offer to him. And finally, he realizes, it's all transient anyways, and then takes back his old age. So I wanted to make it more plausible, as much plausible as I could. So I offered the device of getting transfusions from somebody who's, who can potentially offer blood to him. So in consequence, the same thing happens. He goes and asks his children. And then he also says, look, if you donate blood to me, then it is going to make you weak, and you will not be able to, enjoy youth the way you should possibly enjoy it. And then all the sons refuse. And then Puru says, okay, I will do it for you. The same thing, but it's just cast in a more modern fashion. Yeah.
There is one more question from Manisha ji. She's saying, why did he not think of Yati to donate? I am a little unsure about the question. Yati to donate, I don't know. Well, are you talking about transfusions? I'm not. Manisha ji, if you can clarify your question, that will be great. Rephrase it a little bit more so we can answer it. There is Ram.
Yes, I have
ask a question.
Answer actually, yes, yeah. See, at a very high level, I perceive Mahabharata to be about good and bad and everything, and everything else in between. Whereas Ramayana, I think, is about relationships and duties to your parents, whatnot. Why did you pick Mahabharata, not Ramayana, for your narrative about emotions?
Very good question. Actually, I have loved Mahabharata all my life. It's a lot more complex. I mean, the complexity is probably the theme that's running through today. And so, yeah, and Devayani is also this character who's like totally fascinating. She's good, she's bad, she's very willful. So it is a very challenging kind of a thing to, how can you make this person who seems, on the face of it, incapable of having fruitful relationships, make kind of relatable to an audience? That's a very challenging kind of a thing. I don't know if I have succeeded. Lots of people have told me basically that, she's not a very nice person. She's not sympathetic as a character. How did you even want to talk about her? Essentially because she's not completely a sympathetic character. That is the reason I wanted to pick her. And I also wanted to pick Sharmishta. I want to cast her in juxtaposition with Sharmishta, basically because Sharmishta is cast as this supremely nice character, which is not true either. I mean, she also has emotions. She's also jealous. She's also competitive. She's also vying for the love of the same man. So her life is also not so simple. So that is, I mean, I feel as though I have taken up a challenge, if you will. And I really don't know if I have succeeded in doing what I set out. But if I have, it's wonderful. It's for the readers to tell me.
I'm sure you have. Thank you.
Since you're talking
Look,
about
as a
challenges,
follow-up question, actually, a follow-up. Is there any historical fiction based on Ramayana in the works from your side? Are you planning on working any sequel or any follow-up to this book?
As of right now, my next project is going to be about Madalasa. And that is a character from Markandeya Purana. And she is this character, I find her also very fascinating. So she is this character who advises her older children to become ascetics. She actually gives them upadesh to become mendicants, renunciates. They become sannyasis. And then her husband comes to her and he says, look, you're not doing the right thing. You're not doing the right thing by the kingdom. You're not doing the right thing by your children. You're not doing the right thing by me. And what you should actually do is, there has to be succession. There has to be a prince to carry on the tradition of the kingship. So you have to make sure that there is a proper succession planning, if you will. Then she goes ahead and then trains the youngest son, Alarka, to be the king. She actually turns right around and then she teaches him how to be a good king. So that is what is there in Markandeya Purana. But there's a lot more to it. She's actually a kidnapped victim and she's been rescued by Ritudhwaja, her husband. And there's a lot that Ritudhwaja brings to the table. I mean, Madalasa is who she is because of Ritudhwaja. And there's a lot that goes on into this transformation of this, a person who's who's been rescued, who's now become a confident person and who becomes a mother. So the transformation from a victim to wife to mother is, to me, fascinating. So that's the next thing that I'm working upon.
I had a question about, if I'm allowed to ask Nishant Bhai.
Yes, please go ahead. Manisha ji has also asked a question, so we'll take it after this one, after yours.
Right. Okay, so basically, moving away from book for a second itself, I wanted to ask you a question about the writing of the book as an author. What are some of the problems or difficulties did you go through in getting this book published, actually? Was it easy for you? Where did you find, finding the publisher, finding the editor, those kind of things? Because it's not easy for us Indic scholars and Indic authors to publish.
Yes, so true. But I must say, I just got lucky. Pramod Buravali of Mind.net, he kind of connected with me. It was complete serendipity, he just connected with me because of some tweet I had sent. I'm not even particularly active on Twitter. But I connected with him and then he was so gracious. He connected me with Sankrant Sanu. And then again, it was so smooth. I mean, I just sent it to him because I spoke to Pramod about the book. And then Pramod ji sent it to Sankrant. And Sankrant ji took it up and then he just read it. He even went ahead. He offered me a lot of editorial inputs. So everything was so smooth. It just happened. I mean, I guess I just got lucky.
So you're talking about Garura Prakashan, to be particular, right? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. So since we're talking about the publisher, can you tell us where to buy the book? How to buy the book?
So it is available on garudabooks.com/Devayani, the title. It is also available on, of course, garudabooks.com. If you're in India, you can buy it comfortably. I'm not sure. I mean, shipping will be different for people sitting outside India. So for them, Amazon.com is the best place to go. And then you also get it on Amazon.in. So Amazon India, Amazon USA, both places you can get the book.
Yeah, and Amazon US, you can get the Kindle edition
version as well as the print book. Yes.
Yeah.
One more thing from my side, that I know, Manjula ji, you also are a translator. You have translated many works, and my curiosity in translation as a linguist is that how do you what kind of processes do you go through to keep the translation and the original in sync, in terms of we say in linguistics that anytime you do translation, something is lost, right?
Yes.
How do you keep the integrity of the original when you translate? What kind of processes do you go through?
That's an extremely difficult process, actually. I mean, I have found it extremely challenging. So if you actually literally translate and then put it out there, it is awkward at best. So it is kind of like, I have had this criticism. The first draft of my Ajaya, the translation of a biography of Chandrasekhar Azad called Ajaya in Kannada. It is called Azad the Invincible in English. It is coming out in maybe a week now, 15th of August. So when I first wrote the first draft and then sent it across, it was awkward at best. And everybody was like, it doesn't read right. It doesn't, So I had to go through a lot of editing. The first draft is always to capture the intent of the author. And then the editing is to make sure that the book reads in a way that is more natural to an English reader. So I went through a lot of editing, and I had some editorial help as well. And I had a lot of research help as well. And so end of the day, I think it is in a format that is quite readable. And again, I will await the discerning critics like you to tell me how much I have succeeded in, telling a nice, cogent story. And I know that it is truthful to the original because the original author has read it and then he's kind of, blessed it. So I believe that I have that box, I have got it ticked.
Thank you.
Yeah, I totally, it is not easy. Translation is not easy. It helps that I actually like the subject matter that I'm translating. And I feel like, I feel as though I feel what the author is feeling. So if with that, I think I have kind of won half the battle. The rest of it is to make sure that the story is engaging, the way I am telling the story is engaging to the reader in English. Thank you. That was a very good question. I mean, that's a very searching question.
So there is a question from Manisha ji. She has clarified, yes, to get the donation of blood from Yati, who is his brother and related to Yati, would be an alternative, or maybe the person had to be young to get the youth. That is all I can think. So yes, I think, yeah. Go ahead.
I actually, but here is the thing, right? I have tried to be as truthful to the original story as I can. I mean, I have, like I said, I have interpreted the story and then I have tried to cast it in a modern, modern way. But the story itself is completely true to the original. I mean, sometimes there is contradictions because one source says something and another source says something. Obviously, I have picked the version that is more relevant to my storytelling. But at the end of the day, it is completely true to the original. So this is what happened in the original story. I mean, Puru did exchange his views.
Yes.
Yeah.
The one comment that I when I was I've read the entire thing. One thing that I mean, there were a lot of things that stood out, and we all talked about it. But the one thing that I think we haven't talked that stood out was obviously the two characters, Devayani and Sharmishta, right? They're independent women. They wanna, they are assertive in a sense, but there are also other characters in the book who are equally important, equally assertive. And I love the way you brought it out in the book. Like, you talk about Shukracharya's second wife, Urjaswati, or you talk about Nahusha or Yayati's mother. Viraja, she's like that. You talk about Jayanti, right? The first wife of Shukra, the mother of Devayani, biological mother of Devayani. And there is one of the maids of Devayani. She exhibits a lot of qualities, that today's, so quote unquote, feminism kind of tries to say, okay, we own those things, but they will never say yes, we own these, because we already had those qualities come, in our Puranas and Itihasas, and nobody really talks about that. So I'm glad you brought those out.
Thank you. Isn't it incredible, really? I mean, it's Shachi, for example. This guy is playing court to her, but she says, I'm going to be true to my husband. And then she actually battles him to the point that she actually brings down his reign. I mean, he topples, Nahusha is like toppled from his kingship because of Shachi. And the way they're very independent. Yeah, like you said, they're very, if you want to cast it as a feminist kind of a thing, they are. But I don't really want to cast it as a feminist so much as strong. I mean,
yes,
they're all extremely strong women, and there is no way they're inferior to men in any way.
Right.
They're like, yeah, they take their place as queens, mothers,
right.
Wives. Very
right.
comfortable.
Yeah. The what I meant was, the feminist movement tends to, say, okay, we are all for, all these qualities, but when these qualities are shown in Indian women, or in our literature, or Puranas, Itihas, they never really own to it. So these are the qualities that should be kind of, that women or whatever, real feminists would be proud of, like, women who are strong, who are, assertive, who know what they want, or are doing something to a certain purpose and all that, not just platitudes, so.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any other question? I think we have well answered some of the questions. Manisha ji answered asked a few questions. Do we have any questions on the FB? Can you check?
No, nothing on Facebook.
Okay. So I think we are coming to close to an hour. Manjula ji, you already mentioned about the next projects that you have. One is Ajaya, or the Invincible Azad. Did I get the title correct?
Yeah,
Azad the Invincible. Okay, yeah. So it's a Garuda Prakashan book, right? It's coming out shortly, August 15th.
Yeah.
How long has that been in process? If we may ask that.
Actually, I started both of these books in 2018.
Wow.
And both of them took about 3 years to complete. I mean,
wow.
From start to finish. Yeah,
wow.
It took about 3 years.
Very good. Anything else in pipeline, or just for now for Ajay, or anything else is coming, maybe in distant future?
I have a translation, Savarkar's Gomantak. So Savarkar wrote this novel in verse about the Goa Inquisition, conversions, and the conquest of Goa by Marathas. So that's actually a very beautiful story. So it is in two parts. The first part is about the Inquisition, the trouble that the Hindus went through and all that. And the second part is the Maratha conquest. So it ends on a very high note. And it was a no. He wrote it when he was in prison. He actually it's actually, the story is very nice. So he wrote it in verse. He would mug up the verse and then erase the verse and then write it down and then send it out. So in Ratnagiri prison, he actually wrote. He had to ask, beg, borrow, and steal, so to speak. I mean, he didn't have writing material. So he wrote the, in borrowed paper, and then he smuggled it out of the prison. And I don't know Marathi. So I haven't read the original, but this is translated from Hindi, and it is in the prose format. So I translated this into English, and then this is also going to come out sometime soon, hopefully. That is my
Yeah. That's a hidden past. I mean, not too well known past of India, the Goa Inquisition. I was reading Priolkar's book, the one that's usually read. And if you want to read about Goa Inquisition, so Priolkar's book is very. I mean, it's some of these books are very hard to read, not because they are written in a certain language, but because just too much destruction, and you just feel sad. Page after page you read and you just feel sad, and you just want to come out of that shock, because you can imagine how traumatic it would have been for the people who were at that time. So yeah, it is
totally. I mean, I'm actually right with you. I mean, I can't read it with you need a strong stomach to be able to read on.
Yes, I've been reading it on and off, in a few pages, and then I put it away for a few days because I can't. I mean, there is in the book there's a list of temples that were broken. It's just like heartbreaking. So anyway, but that's great to hear. So
I just wanted to say it ends on a very high note with the conquest, so it is not so hard on the stomach.
Yes. Yes, the original part, the early part is very hard to read. So yeah.
Yes.
But anything you guys want to add, Avtans Bhai, Ram? Anything you want to add before we close out? I think we are right on the money on as regards to time, 1 hour 10 minutes almost. So
I just quickly, a couple of sentences, if you want to say something, because you're also associated with our Indic Book Club and all that. So can you say something to our budding authors, some kind of advice or some kind of words of wisdom? Because that's one of our things. We are also trying to promote Indic writing, Indic authors. So since from your experience, can you tell us something about it real quickly?
Actually, I want to really thank Indic Academy, Indic Book Club. They have offered me so much encouragement. They have spoken to me right from the beginning. And then Indic Today also, I have contributed articles to Indic Today. And when I first went in, I was like, oh, okay, so I have read all these beautiful things, beautiful books in Kannada. I want to be able to say all these stories in English. There aren't that many people perhaps who have read it in, outside my language. So maybe I can make a difference. So I went in with that attitude. Turns out that there are so many talented people out there. There is an anthology, they're working on right now. And Shiv Kumar ji, he is actually curating this particular anthology for Women of Substance is the title of the anthology. And there are all these young people who are there, and they have written so beautifully. One of my stories has been selected for the anthology, and they're actually, getting feedback from Stanford, creative writing professor from Stanford. So when I go there, listen to their stories, I'm like awestruck. Some of them are actually writing in verse. Some of them are crossing across, the magical realism kind of a thing that I was speaking about. They're all writing in those styles. It is awesome. So I am amazed at the amount of talent there is. So yeah, I mean, I'm sure that I will be learning a lot from them. I don't know how much they can learn from me, but yeah, I'm happy to be there.
That was so modest of you.
Not really, actually. I mean, that's the truth.
So
there are
we
lots
have
of talented people out there.
Yeah, we have Manisha ji saying she bought the book from Amazon and she says it was wonderful reading Devayani. So there one more thumbs up for your book.
Thank you very much. So anybody who likes it, or even those who don't like it, please leave me a review. I can learn a lot, and yeah, it spreads the word around. So it's good everywhere.
Very good. So I think we don't have any other questions. I think we've covered a lot of topics. We've covered a lot of discussed a lot of things, and I think it's we don't want to close, but it's time to close. So Manjula ji, thank you again very much. It was a pleasure hosting you. You are one of our own. We always think of you as family. So we will continue to do this as your books come out, and we'll have a discussion, and we'll have just a frank discussion about how things are and all that. So thank you again very much for coming, sparing some time for us.
So much. Thanks again for having me, and thank you very much.
All right, Ram, thank you. Thank you.
Team. Thank you, madam.
All right,
Thank you.
Dhanyawad.
Namaste.
Have a nice day. Thank you.
You too.
Bye bye.